Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. On the last segment we went through some simple music and I showed you some basic skills, and I'm going to continue to do this off and on because I think it's going to be helpful to you as a beginning student. I have no idea where you are if you're watching the show, where you are in terms of your musical education. But the good thing is that we can review and we can take you from very simple to fairly advanced, and this is what I'm going to try to do, starting off simple and then build you up so you can play more advanced music. And if you have any questions, just contact me at the studio and I'll answer your questions on the air, because it's important that you have a coach, and I can be that coach, but it's very important that you have somebody that you check in with if you're not sure about something, because what happens is that you can build up a lot of bad habits. And if you have a lot of bad habits, then it's very hard to unlearn those habits and substitute good habits in their stead. That's not so easy to do. It's better to learn it right from the beginning so you don't have to unlearn something in reverse and then begin again. That's very important. That's why you need to have somebody that's kind of coaching you along the way. So I've been writing music for students for a long time, based upon what their capabilities are, which is based upon how long they've studied and how long they've taken lessons. So if you have 2 or 3 notes that you can play because you're just beginning, then that's good. And then I can write music with 2 or 3 notes available. So a quick review before we start something: you pick the instrument up, you hold it with your left hand on top, your fingers are curved, and your right hand is probably not going to touch the tone holes because you're probably not going to be using them for a while, but they're curved over the tone holes. And by the way, if you've studied piano, you know that piano players often, they keep their hands in position for a chord, even though they aren't using the chord. Then when it comes up, they put their hands down, the chord is right there. They can't do it with flat fingers. They can only do it if their fingers are curved and held over the area where it needs to be. On a piano, of course, you have a more extensive area. But the same thing is true with all of the woodwinds. Your hands have to be ready, even if you're not playing certain notes, so that when they come up, you can easily get them. That means no flat fingers. So anyway, I'm going to play a piece now, and remember before I do that, remember your embouchure. The embouchure is the way that you hold your mouth and the muscles in your mouth around the mouthpiece, either in or about the mouthpiece, so that you can play well. For most instruments, it's going to be that the mouthpiece is actually in your mouth. For the flute, that doesn't happen. It's right underneath your lip. But that's unusual. Most of the instruments, it's right in your mouth. And remember your teeth. For saxophone, clarinet, recorders, sassotos, penny whistles, and all of the melody flutes that I teach, your teeth are going to be on the top of the mouthpiece about 1/3 of the way up. Your lip is going to be over, covering your lower teeth, and then you kind of contract your mouth on the sides, and you should be able to get music that way. So you've got that all set, you've learned all of that, and we go over it every so often just to make sure in case you're a new student. And then I did write a song here that's just based on 3 notes. The notes that we've been working on: B, A, G, F, E, D. If you happen to have a Baroque recorder, that F is going to be this instead of this. You just put that 3rd finger down. And then, but if you're on a German instrument, you don't do that. It does change the pitch a little bit, and most people do play Baroque instruments because they're slightly more accurate in terms of the pitch. So if you, I'm playing this song that's just based on B, A, G, the first 3 notes, and it's going to sound simple because it is. Let me play it first, and then I'm going to show you the fingerings and how it's played, and we'll get into that. So this is your first, probably about your first song if you're a new student. that's a whole song. Now, what is it composed of? Well, I'll show you. First of all, this is only 2 lines, but that doesn't matter. Songs can be 1 line. A song can be even 3 or 4 measures. If you have 4 measures, that's considered to be a phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is like a melody line for those 4 measures, and that's what a phrase is. And then you start another phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the other phrase, the second one. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Another phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another phrase. So you have about 4 phrases to the song. It's not marked out. Phrase 1, phrase 2, phrase 3, but it's just natural. When you start playing, you just go 4 measures, and it's like you've covered something. And it's kind of unique and important in itself. And then you go on and you cover something else that's related to it. Maybe it's even a repeat of what you did first, and it's connected together. Your phrases, you can tell as you're playing them, belong together as a song. Different phrases connected together, but they are separate, and they are separate phrases on their own. So if you can kind of keep that in mind. So what does a song consist of? Well, first of all, you have to have your clef. This is a treble clef. And since we're playing woodwinds play the treble clef. As a general rule, there may be a couple of exceptions when you're getting into the bass recorders and so forth, but for the most part, it's a treble clef. You've got your time signature, 3/4. This is waltz tempo. It's 3 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Every quarter note has 1 beat, and it's 3 of them. So the top line is the amount of beats in a measure, and underneath that line is the kind of note it is. It's a quarter note. I could write 2 eighth notes, and that would be okay. It has to end up, so it's the equivalent of a quarter note. It's the equivalent of 3 quarter notes. I can break it up into 3 sets of 4/16. I could break it up into 1 half note and 1 quarter note. I could break it up into eighth notes. It wouldn't matter. When you add it all together, then you're still going to get the equivalent of 3 beats that are based on the value of the quarter note. I'm going to show that to you. If not this segment, then I'll do it the next segment. But we've been over it before anyway. So 1, 2, 3, there's your first measure. No sharps, no flats. I have seen people write music for kids that are like 3 or 4 sharps. They can't play 3 or 4 sharps. The recorder doesn't play 4 sharps. But the notes that they play aren't sharped. So they could write it in the key of C. It would be the same thing. This is in the key of C. It's not marked, but it does not have any sharps, and it does not have any flats. So you know for sure it's in the key of C. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then his 3 beats and his 3 beats. Since that is slurred and it's held over, you do not tongue the second note. You hold it over like it was 6 beats instead of 3 beats. You're playing both notes, but you're not making a separation between those notes because it's held over. You just held those over. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the same thing here. Now, I could put, since we're dealing with phrases, I should have put a little apostrophe, a little comma-like thing at the end of it, and that's where you breathe. Now, you may well have to breathe in other places. Students who first begin, they can't hold their breath very long. They're not used to it. Their lungs haven't developed. And one of the ways that we develop the breath is to have students do holding tones. Now, it's dull, but it really develops the diaphragm. It develops your lung capacity. It really helps you with your tone. You get to play better. You get to be able to hold notes longer. So it's something that I have all my students do. And a holding tone is just when you take a tone and you hold it for as long as you can. There's no written music for it, and you may do it for every note up and down a scale. One of the things I used to do when I was teaching my students, we'd always start off with a scale. Now we start off with simple scales first, but then they get a little bit more complicated. For the instruments that I was teaching, we could play any scale that was written. It wasn't limited. Here with the recorders, we can do the key of C, the key of D, the key of G, the key of B flat. We don't have any trouble with those keys, but they do get a little more complicated. I can do more than that, but you have to kind of tweak it to do that. And as a beginning student or somebody just learning, you might not be able to do that, but it can be done. An instrument is always going to be written in a certain key. Like the recorders this size are always going to be in the key of C. Saxophones, most people play altos, will be in the key of E flat. Clarinets, most people will be playing in the key of B flat. Those instruments do come in different sizes and different keys, so I'm telling you what the average is or what the usual is. E flat saxophones, B flat clarinets, C recorders, but recorders can come in the key of F, and other instruments can come in different keys as well. Flutes are in the key of C, and a lot of the fingerings of the flutes and the saxophones and the recorders are very, very similar. So you take your note and you just play it, and I'm going to get back to this in a second. I haven't forgotten it. Take a holding tone. Most people, most students won't be able to hold it that long. I could have held it a little longer. I don't hold notes as much as I used to because I've had open heart surgery and lung surgery, and so therefore I don't have quite the lung capacity. I used to be able to hold a note almost to a minute. And keep it steady. Keep it going as long as you can keep the tone steady and not start fading away. And if you could only do 3 or 4 counts, that's fine. Just keep at it. Eventually your lungs are going to be able to do a lot more, and that means you'll be able to play a lot more notes between the times that you need a breath. If you're first starting out, you may well need a breath after every measure. So supposing that you do need a breath after every measure, in the next music I write, I'll put in the breath marks so you'll be able to see where they are. Just shorten the note before. When you need the breath, shorten the note and take a good gulp of air before you hit the following note. So supposing I was here and I could barely make that second, because if I'm playing this slow, that could be kind of long if you're just beginning. So I might want to take a breath right here and then take a breath right afterwards, and that would be okay. You can shorten up this note a little bit. It is a 3-beat note because we're dealing with waltz tempo. You can just shorten that up a little bit and then just take a bit of air and then hit this note on time. Don't come in late on that note. Don't come in late on the beginning note of any measure. What you need to do is just shorten the last note before that and take a breath, even if you have to shorten it up so that it's kind of obvious that you've shortened it up. It won't matter that much, but you don't want to come late on any note in any measure. So I'm going to play and I'm going to breathe. I've got a copy of the music in front of me. I'm going to breathe right here and I'm going to breathe right here. And you don't want a noisy breath, but you just want an uptake of air. Now, it's not really hardly noticeable that I'm taking a breath of air, but if I were to separate the nose, any long separation and becomes very obvious, and it kind of destroys the music. So what you have to learn to do is to breathe very quickly and take in the air that you need. And if you do the holding tones, your tone will improve. You'll be able to hold your breath a lot longer between the time you need a breath. And I know some people do put the breath marks in, and I should start doing that. But once you've played for a while, you just kind of know when to take a breath. And if you have to take it, take it. You know, it's not the end of the world if you have to split a note or something, but there are ways of doing it that make the music a little bit better. So you play, and when you get here, you might take a breath. When you get here, you might take a breath. So you need your holding tones. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, one phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, one phrase. Every 4 measures is a phrase. It just works out that way. And usually you're going to need to take a breath between phrases. But this is a whole song that's been based on 3 notes. I can just make up, I'll just make up something. Now I did add a C, and I added an F sharp, but you may be interested at some point in writing your own music. If you want to write your music, you will hear it in your head. Or this is the way I do it. Everybody does it differently. I'll be doing whatever, reading, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, and suddenly a song will come to me. And the whole thing comes to me. It's not just I get a little bit and then I have to work at it to get the rest of it, which some composers need to do. I just get the whole thing. And I think of it, and I finger it in my mind. I have an instrument, and I can finger what I think the fingerings would be, and I can figure out what key I'm thinking of it in just by doing that. Now, I've had practice in doing that. It just comes automatically. And then I have paper, and I write it down. This is scripting it. When you script it, you just write down what it is. Now, then I have to check and make sure that it's right, because maybe I'm thinking of it in a different key that the recorder can't play, or maybe it has notes that the recorder can't do. So I take it, I check everything in the recorder as I'm playing it, and usually it comes out right, and that's the way I do it. I have a good friend of mine who's a composer, and he has themes in his mind. He has themes of things he wants to talk about, because he talks about, it's like he's doing storytelling as he's composing. And the music is absolutely beautiful. And he'll make up phrases to tell the story, and then he matches the music to that. And that's the way he does it. I've been in conferences where we have broken up in groups for the purpose of recording a song. And we will work on the song. We might have, 4 or 5 people in a group. And somebody thinks of a little melody, and somebody else thinks of a little melody, and we work at it, and we have a keyboard, and we work it together. By the time we're through, which is usually about 40 minutes or so to the conference, we have a song. And not only do we have a song, but if we have instruments, and we all do, we can actually harmonize to the song and do ad-libs to the song and all of that. It's just natural. We just do it. So I would suggest, if you're interested in writing, if you think of a melody, take an instrument and see if you can replicate it on the instrument. Now, I just made that up, you know, and it would come to me. Music just comes to me, and I just write it down. Now, if I like it well enough, then I would script it. And the reason for my scripting it is I'll remember it if I script it. I might not remember it if I don't. And the other thing is, if I'm teaching, I can make that into a song that people can play. I mean, I just played it. and I know the key that it was in, and I know the notes that I used. I scripted that I can teach that to somebody else, and it can become an exercise or a regular song. An exercise is when you have a group of notes together so you can practice it. Like if I go from a G and I want to show a student how to play a D, G, A, B, C, D, D, C, B, A, G. Now, an exercise will be what if I want to make a song out of that? So I just made a song out of that. It's really not all that hard, you know? It just isn't that hard at all. So let's see, I think we're out of time. No, maybe we're not. I'll keep going anyway. So anyway, as you were doing this, you just another song. But I'm doing it out of music, out of notes that are very, 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 very familiar to you. That B, A, G, F, E, D. You need to know your timing. You need to know how to tongue it. So when you get that all done, you'll be able to play. So I'm going to close it now, and we will continue with this next time, because we are just about running out of time. My clock was wrong. I knew something was wrong with it. I knew I didn't have 16 minutes left. Something didn't fit right. So we will close this, and I'm just going to continue teaching you and helping you to play. If you have any questions, make sure you email me, and I'll answer your questions on the air. So we'll see you next time.